There's no time.
The time is
13
o'clock. Hey, it's us again. And this is episode 161.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, this is going to be a show centered around Florida man.
Yes, several different Florida men.
Yeah, Florida man.
Yeah, it's interesting because I had gotten like requests to do various Florida crimes and things like that, and I thought, oh, well, maybe I'll just put them all on one show. Now, the interesting thing about it is that the 4 cases that I'm going to talk about on this show, I had not heard of any of them, even though I've lived here my whole entire life. Isn't that crazy?
They just got lost in the swamp of other Florida men.
I guess so.
Yeah.
It's like, you have to do a lot to compete with, the whole Florida man meme.
It's always a Florida man.
Unless you're like wrestling alligators or eating someone else's face off.
Yeah. Florida has a lot of diversity. It goes all the way up from the Panhandle all the way down almost to Cuba.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to run into in Florida. You just don't.
That's definitely true.
Yeah, it's the new California.
And I was born here, so,
yeah.
like I said last time, I'm Florida woman, I guess.
Yeah.
Although I've never done anything like these people. But yeah, so these 4 cases, all serial killers, 3 of them never caught. One of them, they think they caught him, like they arrested a guy, but he's still on trial at the moment. So I'm going to do them like in chronological order, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know which ones you're doing. You're going to do the one about the old guy who buried the little girl alive?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, remember that dude? That was a piece of work.
That's what I mean. There's so many. It's like I don't even. Yeah, I'm doing like 4 like serial killer.
Okay.
Cases.
Yeah, he wasn't a serial killer. He only killed one, I think so.
Oh, so that makes it better.
Well, it was only. They have to be qualified as a serial killer. I think they had to do 3.
Yeah.
Right. So.
You either have, I think it's 3, or you either have to do 2 that have like a very specific signature, and they have reason to believe that you will keep doing that. But I think that more or less it's 3. And so that's what we're going to do, because like I said, I'm from Florida, and these were all interesting cases to me. Now, I had actually talked about one of the cases I'm going to talk about. I actually talked about on the Conspiranormal show, which I'm not sure when that's going to go up. I recorded an interview with Adam Sane from Conspiranormal. Yeah. And we talked about a bunch of different cases that were in my new Faceless Villain 3 book.
Yeah, and I'm on the bonus material.
Yeah, you have to go be their patron to hear Tom ranting about what were you even talking about? I don't even remember.
Those dudes, they listen to the show.
Yeah.
So they know what questions to ask me to get me to go off. A lot of it had to do with what Ashita Kim and
we talked a lot about that.
Count Dante, and so they know what to ask me.
That was a fun show.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that'll be that thing. Now let's do like a couple of shout outs.
Yeah.
Got a new patron this week named Will S. Hey there, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
we always
thanks,
appreciate everyone's support. Also, as I mentioned, my book Faceless Villain 3 is out on all formats: audiobook, ebook, print, etc.
Yeah, selling pretty well.
I also just finished, because like I said, I'm going to consolidate like a lot of my fiction, short stories, novels, things like that into like bigger volumes. And I'm going to do audiobook versions of them and, do second editions of ones that were already out, like new covers and shit like that. So my first one of those, Associated Villainies, I just finished recording and editing the audiobook. So what I'm going to do is probably... by the time this goes up, I probably will have already put the print and the ebook up, so it might already be available at this time. And then probably like 2 weeks from now, the audiobook will be available. Yeah, so this is like, there's 30 short stories in it. As I said, if you read the first edition of it, this actually has some extra stories in it. So
yeah,
if that's worth it to you. And like I said, there's an audiobook version of it, which there never was before, so that's kind of neat. Now, since we were talking about Conspiranormal, and if you saw the commercial last week, they are doing like a conference in Tennessee, which, like all paranormal stuff, and it is on October 19th. So if you are in the area, And again, I'm going to run the commercial on the show so you can listen. They got all the details and stuff like that. But I just thought I would mention it on here too. Just because they're friends of the show. We, and I've been on their show a lot of times. We've both been on their show several times talking about various topics. So go check it out if you're in that area.
Yeah.
Also, here's another thing that look at, like, time sneaks up on me, man. It's like I didn't even realize it's almost the middle of September, and I'm like, well, shit, I need to figure out something to do for the Halloween show in case we need to do something that, like, takes a long time. And someone asked me, it's like, oh, are you doing like you did on the Halloween show last year where you had people, like, submit stories, like ghost stories or scary shit that happened to them? And I'm like, should we do that again? That was kind of fun, and a lot of people liked that.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
So if we do that again, then I'll probably, I can say it now, I guess, but if you have a scary story that happened to you, or true story, fictional story, whatever, as long as it's scary, and you want us to read it aloud on the show, as long as it's not super, super, super long.
Yeah, because I think we had one that was just too long to
read. Yeah, because
because
there was a couple that were, like, too long.
Yeah, it'd be like a 4 or 5 hour show.
Yeah, it's like, I don't mind doing, like, a little bit longer show, but it's like, I wanted them, like, kind of short enough to read on the thing. So, I'll put a thing in the description, like, where the email you can send it to and all that other kind of stuff. So
is that cat back in there?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. You guys see a cat go in there?
Yeah.
I hear something.
She's always sneaking around back, like, behind us and stuff like that, little Pookie.
What you doing in there? Come here.
Where'd she go, in the closet?
Yeah, there she is.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I see her. There's her little face.
Here.
Aww.
Yeah, she sounds like she was tearing shit up.
Look at you, baby Cookie. She always is. All right, so I think that's probably all the shout-outs, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into talking about some murders.
All right.
Now, as I said, I'm going in chronological order, so the first ones we're going to talk about are called the Flat Tire Murders. All right. These happened in South Dade County.
So now you're going to tear shit up in here?
Yeah.
Come here. Come here. Okay.
Cookie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are called the Flat Tire Murders. They happened in South Dade County in the 1970s, specifically 1975. If you are not from Florida, South Dade County is notable for being the county which contains Miami. Yeah. So you can get an idea of where we're talking about. So this person, who was never caught, they think that he murdered between 5 and 9 women in 1975. No suspects were ever identified. Case remains unsolved. Now, the first one of these murders happened on February 1st, 1975. The victim was 20-year-old Judith Esterling. She had been, all her clothing was gone, and she had been dumped in a canal. She had been working at a massage parlor before her death. The last time she was seen was when she was leaving the massage parlor after her shift at work, which was 9 p.m., 2 days before her body was found. She was also known to be a hitchhiker, which is, like I said, a lot of people did that in the 60s and 70s, but a lot of people got murdered doing that too, so don't hitchhike, you guys. Later on, the same month, which was February...
Hey, stop it.
Oh.
No. She's tearing everything up in there.
She wants us to pay attention, that's why. I don't know why you get so much attention. I don't know why your problem is.
Okay.
All right. So the second victim was found later on in February of 1975. This was 23-year-old Barbara Stevens. Now, she was actually kidnapped from a mall and then later found stabbed to death. Now, I've seen varying accounts of where this body was found. Some said she was found, like, out in the open. Some said she was found in her house, which would lead one to believe that maybe these weren't connected. But the thing that gave this serial killer his name was that when the investigators found this woman's car, like in the parking lot of the mall, one of the tires had been let down. So that was something that would kind of come up again, like in later cases. So he's pulling like a Bundy type of thing, where
letting the air out of the tire.
He's like fucking up people's car, and then when they come out and they can't, then he's like, "Oh, hey, can I help you with your car?"
Right. It's a ruse.
and then they murder you. Yeah. So they think that's what this dude was doing. The next one occurred on April 12th, 1975. This was a 17-year-old girl named Arietta Tinker. Now, she was found in a canal not too far away from where the first victim had been found. She was actually married, despite her young age. Her and her husband had a 1-year-old son. But, yeah, so she was the third victim. Then there was, like, kind of a gap of several months. Then there was June 15th, 1975. This girl named Nancy Lee Fox. She was 19. She worked as a waitress at a taco place. And she got off her shift at the restaurant and started walking home. She lived in Fort Lauderdale, actually. And she disappeared subsequently on the walk home. They found her. What's that?
He must be seeing these women at work.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
He's following them.
Mm-hmm.
He's following them where they're going, and when they go somewhere, when they get, say, like to the parking lot of where they're going to shop, he then lets the air out of the tire.
Yeah.
And then they come back out, and then he offers to help them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel
in that
like
particular one, she worked at a Taco Bell.
Or they just said a taco restaurant, so
Right.
I don't know.
Probably
if it was,
Taco Bell.
Maybe.
What year did you say it was? 70-something?
1975.
Taco Bell.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
it might
have
have
been
been.
Del Taco, not that early.
Yeah, although it could have been like a mom and pop.
Could have been, but they were more
Place.
rare back then. Back then, you know.
That's true.
Although
in Miami or Fort Lauderdale.
It's far from Mexico.
Yeah,
California,
that's true.
maybe.
Yeah.
And I was growing up during that time. It would have been a chain, and it probably would have been Taco Bell.
Yeah.
And he went in there to get some tacos and saw her. That's what happened there.
Yeah.
So he's seeing them where they work. Where'd the other ones work? Did it say?
One worked at a massage parlor.
That was just one he ran across. Maybe he was a customer there.
Maybe. And then another one was like not at work. She was shopping at a mall.
Because, I don't know, at certain places at certain times, a massage parlor is a euphemism for a brothel. That's what's going on in there.
Well, I thought
it's
that
a
was
rub
what
and
was.
tug.
That's what I thought was mostly going on in this place.
Maybe that's. I don't know. I've never been to one myself. I don't know. I don't know how open they are about that. Technically, that's illegal.
Yeah, it is.
So if you send a vice unit after them, they can bust them.
Yeah,
So
and I remember some in Daytona being busted when I was growing up there.
So you have to have very tolerant cops for that to go down. So I don't know, but he's serial killer would be the kind of guy who would typically kind of go check out places where lot lizards or hookers or something where they they'd go to a massage parlor and look.
Yeah.
Try to get one. So he's a guy who's patrolling.
Yeah, he definitely seems like one that's just going out and like hunting.
He's patrolling
in various places.
He's going to be kind of like a Dennis Rader type, or what was it? The guy who? Well, no, I wouldn't. Trying to find a good example of one that does that. No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Audience knows who it is I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Dennis Rader really didn't hunt that way.
No, that's true.
Gary Ridgway did. It was probably something more like that.
I feel like Rader, didn't he generally... His thing was more like location based a little bit.
He was into good girls, actually.
Yeah.
Church women and just people that worked, lived in the neighborhood. I don't think he was interested in hookers. Gary Ridgway was. But this guy here, I think he's just targets of opportunity.
Yeah, it seems like
the girl that worked here, the girl that worked there,
Yeah, it seems like he's just kind of like going, oh, he happened to be in a Taco Bell one day and saw somebody and was like, oh, yeah.
He's looking for women.
Yeah.
That's what he was doing in a damn massage parlor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this woman, Nancy Lee Fox, who was 19, as I said, she was later found dumped in the same canal where Judith Esterling, who was the first victim, was found. Now, she had also been stripped naked. She had been raped. And she had actually been killed by being hit with a blunt object. So he's changing up his MO a little bit if indeed this is the same person, because at least one of the other ones was stabbed, and then some of the other ones were beaten in the head. Now the next ones, this only occurred 3 days later.
Was the stabbed one earlier?
Yeah.
Yeah, he found out that wasn't effective.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was, because she died, but I mean,
Yeah, it takes too long.
Yeah.
blunt force trauma knocks them out instantly.
Yeah, we were talking about that
Yeah.
in regards to
Too much trouble.
Ed Kemper.
Yeah.
How you think you can just stab a person one time and they're just gonna like keel over dead, and that's not how it works.
No, they fight back for a long time. It takes a lot of stab wounds. It just takes a long time to bleed out from that. Just a knife is just not a good weapon. It's a great tool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But soldiers carry bayonets and shit like that and knives on them. They're not killing people with those.
Yeah.
They're cutting cords and cutting wire and making camp with them, you know.
I feel like a lot of serial killers probably use them not because they're efficient, but because they're, you know, a penetrative tool.
Well, they're scary, you know. That's something that they grew up seeing.
Yeah.
And they had all those detective magazines which featured knives a lot on the covers. And, you know what I mean? It's kind of an intimidating thing. I got a knife. Shit, man. A fucking club is better than the knife, actually.
Yeah. But I think, like I said, there's definitely some kind of fetishistic element to it. Because, I mean, that's why killers in giallo movies and a lot of slasher movies always use knives
cruel,
or bladed weapons.
Yeah, it's cruel and sharp looking, you know what I mean? It's pointed and it's, you know, it'll stab into you.
Yeah.
It makes blood. You can slice somebody, you know, but
they're
not that effective.
Like I said, I don't know if a lot of them are going for effectiveness necessarily.
Yeah, mostly just to probably, you know, intimidate somebody, get them to obey.
Yeah. So the next two victims, and this only happened like a few days after Nancy Lee Fox was killed. Now, these were two 14-year-old girls, Barbara Schreiber and Belinda Zetterauer.
I just realized something.
What's that?
I was thinking of Rader because her name is Nancy Fox. That was the name of one of Dennis Rader's victims, remember? He called on the phone. Did he say Nancy Fox?
Yeah, or her last name was Fox. I can't remember if her first name was Nancy or not. It might have been, yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be creepy if, like, there's more than one serial killer, like... Well, that happened in fucking the Alphabet Murders, too.
Yeah.
Like, one of the victims in New York was named Carmen Colon, and then one of the victims in California was also named Carmen Colon. Which... And it's probably a coincidence, because I don't know if that was the same killer or not. But yeah, so these were two 14-year-old girls. They were seen hitchhiking at about 10 p.m. on June 18th, and a couple of days later were found murdered, their bodies dumped side by side in a Broward canal. They had all been stripped. They had both been stripped naked, had both been raped. Now, these two were shot with a heavy caliber handgun. One was shot in the head, and the other one was shot in the chest. So, like I said, if this is the same killer, I mean, it seems like the same victim profile, more or less, seems like the same kind of, and he's dumping them in pretty much the same place. He's just using different weapons every time.
Yeah, trying to figure out the best way.
I guess so. Now, the next one happened 3 weeks later. This was July 10th, and this was another teenage girl, 15-year-old Robin Losh. She was found in the same canal. And this canal, like I said, was the same. It was like 200 yards from the canal where two of the other victims were found, Esterling and Fox. Now, unusually for this particular killer, Robin Losh was actually found fully clothed, but they think that it was probably the same. There were other aspects of the case that made him think that it was probably the same. Plus, the body had been dumped in pretty much the same place as a bunch of the other ones. So they thought that maybe this killer was either lived around there or worked around there, something like that, because he seemed very comfortable in this area and like comfortable dumping bodies there.
Why was she clothed? Because maybe she started to run away and he shot her?
Maybe.
She fought back?
Yeah. Yeah, because most of the other ones were naked, and most of the other ones were raped as well.
Know, if a guy's going to do this to you, you might as well just go down fighting.
That's what I always thought.
Yeah, force him to kill you.
I would rather, it's just horrible to think about. But
well, you can stay statistically, they mostly let him go. So I guess that's what they're holding on to. I mean, you don't know if you're with one of them's got a hold of you that he's going to kill you. But man, it's safe to assume he's probably going to rape you and kill you.
I would assume that.
Yeah, I would kind of assume that.
And I would rather just try to
go down fighting, go down with your fucking boots on. Shoot me, motherfucker.
Either that or try to take him out with me.
Yeah, well, depending on how big these guys are, you don't know.
That too. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
At least you could.
I have a feeling.
At least you could maybe fucking hurt him before.
I have a feeling this is a young guy.
Most of them are.
Yeah. Because some of them are 15, 16, 17. He's probably not much older than that.
Yeah.
Well, I may be wrong, but.
Because it seemed like most of his victims were.
He's going to a massage parlor or
younger.
some shit.
Yeah.
He sounds like a guy in his early 20s.
Probably. So the next victim was Ronnie Gorlin. She was 27 years old. On July 22nd, 1975, her car was found in a shopping mall parking lot in North Miami with one of the tires let out, the air let out. The next day, her body was found in the same canal, clothes removed, except for her shoes. She had sandals on, and he left the sandals on, but she was naked other than that, and also she had been raped. I don't know how she was killed. 8 days later, 21-year-old Elise Knapp was found in a canal about a mile away from where the last victim had been found. Now, she had actually been hit on the back of the head and then drowned. So I'm not sure if drowned, hit her on the back of the head and then throw her in the canal. So I'm guessing she just was unconscious, because they said that the wound would have caused a concussion. She was also found naked. The only thing that was left on her body was a necklace that had a little charm on it. So she had actually been a secretary. So these victims are not because some of the ones I'm going to talk about later, some of the victims were, prostitutes or drug addicts or something like that. But these ones were not that. So her car was also found with a flat tire, as I said, in the parking lot of the Hollywood Shopping Center. Now, August 17th, 1975, there was another body, and this one was found in a rock pit, like a quarry.
Hold on one second.
What's that?
So her car was found at in the parking lot of the shopping center.
Mm-hmm.
So he's offering to give her a ride somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's doing. To fix the car.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, he said, he probably said, I'll give you a ride to
to the service station.
To the service station, and you can figure out what to do, or I'll give you, or I'll give you a
Your
ride
tow
to a
truck will
phone
come
booth or
and get
something.
you.
Yeah, or something like that. So yeah, that's what he's doing. Now, this victim, her name is just given as Mrs. Gordon. Her car was actually found in the same parking lot as the car belonging to Ronnie Gorlin, but the tires weren't deflated. Now, when they found her body in the rock pit, she had all her clothes on too. So they weren't entirely sure if this was the same killer, even though the MO was similar, but different enough that they were kind of they weren't entirely sure. So at this point, they felt like at least 5 of these particular killings were likely the same person, and then there were a few more that were kind of outside of that could have been the same person, but the MO was slightly different, like the way they were killed and stuff. Now, another interesting thing that they noticed was that some things that were reported, some similarities. They said obviously a lot of the cars were found found in a parking lot or found with their tires flat. Some of them were rental cars or leased cars, and they had what they called E-tags. Almost either all or almost all of the victims were Jewish, which they thought was very interesting. Most of the victims that were found naked had one item left on them, either a piece of jewelry or a pair of shoes or something like that. So they weren't sure if it was some kind of fetishistic sort of thing. You know what I mean?
But one were Jewish?
Actually, maybe all of them were Jewish. So
was that a common ethnicity of that era?
That's what I mean. Area? I'm not really sure.
Maybe he just had. Jewish girls had a certain look that he liked. He might have been Jewish.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they stick within their ethnic group.
Yeah, most of the time they do.
So I bet you he was Jewish.
Yeah, and that was just
your average dumbass white boy wouldn't know what a Jewish girl would probably look like back in those days in Florida.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would stand to reason, wouldn't it?
Right,
because usually serial killers will pick victims based on.
You have to know what Jewish people look like to know how. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think the average white people don't even know what Jewish people really look like. They just look like other white people.
Well, yeah.
But Jewish people can spot other Jewish people. I bet you he was Jewish.
Yeah, he might have been.
Yeah.
That would, since all or most of the victims were Jewish, I would imagine that the killer is probably Jewish as well.
That's where I'd start.
Yeah, so if indeed this was all the same person, a variety of different methods were used. Now, some of them were shot, like I said, some of them were hit in the head, they think with a hammer. The ones that were stabbed, they think that maybe it was an ice pick, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But you know, that's what they're thinking. If these are the same, if this is the same guy, they just think it's somebody that was trying to change up their MO. But then they're all then he's dumping all the bodies in the same place, and he's not particularly trying to hide them because they all seemed like they were found like almost immediately. It wasn't like he was burying them or nothing.
Right.
So, you know.
My money is that that's a Jewish guy. This is somebody who could spot another Jewish person.
Yeah.
Doesn't even have to know their name.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Could be.
Just go, that's a Jewish person.
Yeah.
That's a Jewish girl. Yeah. So, I bet you it's a Jewish guy.
Yeah. It may be, like I said, although they never caught him. Now, at the time that these crimes were going on in 1975, there was this one guy who was a sergeant in Sonoma County named Erwin Carlstedt, and he's like, I think this is the same person who has been doing some other murders in Washington and Utah, and that he had been like traveling back and forth from the opposite coasts. However, as anyone who's super into true crime will be aware, the specific murders that he was talking about that occurred in Utah were committed by Ted Bundy. Now, some people speculate that Ted Bundy might have killed these girls as well in Florida because he did, he was in Florida for a time. And it did sort of like overlap, like it was possible that he could have been in Florida, like when that shit was going on and everything. But
that ethnic factor right
there. That's
what
I mean. And the thing is, he confessed to like a whole bunch of murders, like before, they gave him the chair. And those ones were not among the ones that he confessed to. So you would think that he would have fessed up if that was him.
Yeah.
Although this does seem... The reason they thought that maybe it was him because of the whole car ruse, because that was a very Bundy-esque thing. Because he would do that same kind of shit too. It's like, I have a cast, or,
Yeah, well, he might have heard about that from Bundy.
That's what I mean. So the guy that's doing this...
I'm going to say the ethnic angle, I would exclude him. I would say. Bundy didn't have a thing for Jewish girls. He liked girls that looked like Marsha Brady.
Yeah.
Basically, long hair. I think he preferred blonde women, but I think he took anyone.
Well, I thought it was dark hair, but
was it dark? I know he had some kind of. I think it was straight hair though, with that.
Yeah, like parted in the
middle. I remember that his victim profile. They were all similar looking. They were all good looking.
Yeah.
But they were Anglo.
Yeah. And he was like, he mostly hunted around college campuses.
Yeah.
Whereas this guy seems like you said, he was just randomly going into places and seeing a girl that worked there or someone that was shopping at a mall or something and then decided to...
Yeah, I remember reading, books that had a lot of Bundy's quotes in it, when guys were interviewing him. And, Bundy was a snob. He saw himself as like upper crust serial killer. If she wasn't a college girl or something from a good family, then she was garbage. She wasn't worth killing.
Yeah.
And he liked the cream of the crop. He made fun of serial killers that went after prostitutes and shit like that. Called them bottom feeders.
Yeah.
That anybody could do that. It doesn't require any skill. You don't have to be a man of taste. That's basically what he said. The way
Kemper had a bit of that too.
Yeah.
Where it's like he thought that killers that went after prostitutes or drug addicts or something like that were scumbags.
They were scum, right?
Or that was like too easy or something. I don't know. That's fucked up. It's pretty fucked up that like even serial killers have like a hierarchy.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Well, Bundy thought that, the ultimate high caliber serial killer is supposed to be intelligent, charming, and handsome, and supposed to be able to get the prettiest girls in the world to go with him somewhere, willingly, and that, he could be able to trick them pretty easily, and he was manipulative.
Yeah.
But he judged himself based upon the quality of his victims.
Yeah.
The higher, that's the higher caliber they were, the better he was.
Yeah.
That, he didn't want to belittle himself by going after, street trash.
Yeah. I mean, You know, I can see that. You know what I mean? Because I guess he considered that his work. You know what I mean? And it's like...
Well, I guess he kind of saw it in the way that a guy would see it about dating girls.
Yeah.
Except in his case, it was rape or murder.
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean? A guy who's like, I ain't going to date that girl. You know what I mean? He's like that.
She fugly.
Yeah, or, she's scuzzy. I'll kill that one, but I'm not going to kill this one. Kill that nice girl over there. Yeah, that's what he was... That's the way...
That's so messed up.
Yeah. Well, I think, with serial killers, it's a, what do you call it? It's a sexual orientation.
Yeah, it does seem to be,
It is a sexual orientation.
Yeah, it's like they take the normal shit about like who you want to date and shit like that, but they just extrapolate that to like, hey, I'm going to kill him instead.
Yeah, rape and murder. But it's that same sex drive, it's that same orientation, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're killing what they would normally date.
Yeah.
Or marry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I
guess. Yeah, so, like I said, what?
I was going to say, I guess it's what they would date or marry, but not quite, because, Gary Ridgway was married to a normal woman, but he killed nothing but just like trashy hookers. But
well, some serial killers are married to like normal
Could
women.
be that Bundy would say, well, it was because he was a fucking dumbass and a scuzzbag, and he couldn't get a nice woman.
Right.
That's what. So he had to go with hookers because that's the only people that would go with him. So I guess Bundy would probably say that the Green River Killer was only killing hookers because that was the only kind of women he could get.
Yeah.
That's that.
We haven't done a show about Gary Ridgway, have we?
No. Gary.
Yeah.
Little fucking weasel.
We need to get around to doing it.
Yeah.
We got to do Richard Speck too. He gets it because I keep
Ridgway was the weakest of the serial killers, if you ask me. I mean,
although one of the most prolific.
He killed a lot of them, but you look
really
at that guy,
he's just
people. It's like a serial killer version of what Rick Moranis. Remember the Rick Moranis? It's like that,
Didn't I read somewhere? Wasn't it Gary Ridgway that like in the area that he was in like skewed the average like for the crime rate because he killed so many people?
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
Although
I say that a lot on this show.
the cops that interviewed him just said they were just amazed at how weak he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was an extremely weak man. They were expecting a monster.
It doesn't take much to...
Yeah. Well, they were expecting kind of like a real monster, but he was really more like a nobody.
Yeah.
Well,
a lot of them end up being like that. I don't know why people keep expecting them to like look like an ogre or something.
Right. Well, he was just a real meek nobody. Didn't you?
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that that's would be a multiple murderer or a serial killer. You would think that it would be somebody that had big anger issues and you know what I mean, like somebody who looked imposing. No.
It hardly ever is though.
No. Dweeb.
Yeah. Well, like I said, a lot of them are.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I said, now the flat tire murders, between 5 and 9 victims, never solved. No suspects, no nothing. That was the only theory, that maybe it was Bundy, and then they were like, nah, it probably wasn't Bundy. And that's been the end of it. And like, I've lived here my whole life. I was 3 years old when this shit happened, and I had never heard of these. There's like a fucking serial killer running around in the 70s when I was little. And I didn't even know anything about it.
Something happened to him. He either moved away... Although if he'd moved away, he'd gotten caught. He'd brought that same signature with him. He'd been caught, and then he would have confessed to those.
Yeah,
also.
now I'm kind of wondering...
I think he stopped. I'm betting.
Yeah, because he did stop. I mean, because these all happened like in a fairly short time. It was less than a year.
Yeah, he might have burned out.
Yeah.
And realized that he had some kind of weird fetish about it, did it a few times, and maybe he got satisfied, or he realized that he was chasing a dragon. You know what I mean? That he would never be satisfied, so he stopped.
I mean, I guess
maybe it satisfied his curiosity and it didn't fulfill him.
Yeah.
See how it grew.
I mean, I guess they always say, like, oh, serial killers, like, particular types of serial killers never stop and stuff like that, but I think some of them do.
Yeah, I think some of them do, too.
I mean, I don't think they necessarily all die or move away or
He might have been pretty young. They got in a car with him, so maybe he was young and basically kind of cute and non-threatening.
Yeah.
So they got into a car with him when he tried to help him. Raped and killed some of them, and then he realized, and then for some reason decided there was nothing to it. Didn't want to do it anymore.
Shit, man, he could still be living around here somewhere. Eee.
He got away with it. They didn't catch him.
No, I guess not. Like I said, unless he got caught for some other shit and never like fessed up to this. But
No, he got away with it.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking.
Or he died.
Yeah.
But I think that's unlikely. Maybe he got away with it and then he died. But he didn't die back then. He stopped.
Yeah. I believe it.
Yeah.
This just now, I'm thinking about this now, and I'm just like creeping me out because I'm like, holy crap! It's like this shit happened in fucking
I'm
Florida.
telling you, man,
These people might still be running around.
It's that Jewish angle too. That ethnic Jewish angle.
Mhm.
He was going after women of his own ethnic background.
Yeah.
And Jewish people have higher than national average IQ. He was smart.
Yeah.
And serial killers tend to be smart. He was young and fucking dumb, and he had this in him, and he went out and did it a couple times, and then decided that it really wasn't satisfying him, and that he'd eventually get caught, so he stopped. How much you want to bet? How much you want to bet? That's what happened.
Yeah, probably.
And how much you want to bet he did something like become a cop?
That would not shock me.
Yeah, like what's his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's his name? Night Stalker, original Night Stalker.
Yeah. Golden State Killer.
Did something like that.
Joseph D'Angelo.
Yeah.
Allegedly. Did I tell you I don't know if I said it on the show. I think I said it on the Conspiranormal thing, but it's like I happened to see like a headline about D'Angelo the other day, and they had a picture of him, and I was like, who the fuck's that? That's not D'Angelo, but it was. He's been on like a hunger strike or some shit.
Yeah, he got real skinny.
Like he lost like all this weight. He's like unrecognizable.
I think he stopped and became a cop, or he did something. Maybe he got married. Maybe he joined the army, and moved away, and developed a different personality. He might have been really young when he did it.
Yeah.
Something like that. He stopped. There's a good chance he stopped at a time when he was still pretty young, where he could change.
Yeah.
Or hold it, you know what I mean, in check. Maybe it was something early in his development. He might have been a teenager when he did this.
Yeah, it did seem like, I mean, not all of the victims were teenagers, but
they went with him.
A significant portion of them were.
They went with him, which makes me think that he was not threatening looking.
Yeah.
Which
he might have
been 18, 19
That's what I mean.
old.
These serial killers that get away with a lot of this stuff for like a long time and everything. Yeah. It's like they can't look like a big fucking ogre, because then they wouldn't be able to like lure anyone into their car, because everybody would be like, no thank you.
For all we know, he was 17, 18, 19-year-old, and he was cute.
Yeah. I wonder if I know this person.
I don't know. Come on. Big state.
Like, I know, but it's like, well, we're gonna get like later on. We're gonna get to one where it's like happened where I grew up and where I was still living at the time. All right. You know what I mean? So, but before we do that, we're gonna talk about the Kingfish Boat Ramp Murders.
All right.
Now, this is actually in my book, because this is also unsolved. This happened over on the west coast of Florida, a little island off the coast of Tampa, where I also lived for a short time. Tampa, that is. This happened in 1980. Now, this was the Dumois family. The dad was named Juan Dumois. He was a pediatrician. And he had a wife named Maria, and they had 4 kids, 2 of whom were like older teenagers and 2 were younger boys. So it's the beginning of August, and they decide they're going to go on summer vacation. So they rent a vacation cottage on this little island. It's like a 7-mile island called Anna Maria Island, which is off the west coast of Florida, right off of Tampa. So they go and they're staying in this little vacation cottage or whatever, and then they took their boat and they, going out boating and fishing and everything. So Friday, August 1st, some of them are going to go fishing. Now, it's Dr. Dumois, the pediatrician, his brother-in-law, whose name is Raymond Barrows, and the 2 younger kids, who were named Eric and Mark, and they were 13 and 9. So they go out to the Kingfish Boat Ramp. They go out fishing and catch a whole bunch of fish. They come back like later in the afternoon, about 3 or 4 o'clock, and they hitch the boat to the back of the car, and they're going to start to drive back to the vacation cottage. So just as they take off, this random dude pushing a bicycle like kind of comes out of the bushes, and he flags the car down like he needs help. So Dr. Dumois is like, hey man, what you need? And he's like, oh, it's like, I hurt my ankle and it's like really hurting to ride this bike and I can't really walk all that well. I just need a ride to this condominium complex. It's just right up there around the corner. Right? So this guy just came up on the bike. So the doctor's like, oh, okay, man, no problem. The doctor gets out of the car. He puts the guy's bike, like he loads it into the boat. And then the guy gets into the back seat of the car with the 2 kids. And then they start driving toward the dude's destination. Minutes later, the dude suddenly pulls out a gun and starts shooting.
Yeah.
He shoots Raymond Barrows first, who I presume was in the passenger seat. Then he shoots the 13-year-old kid and the 9-year-old kid right in the head. And then he shoots Dr. Dumois, who is driving the car. Obviously, the car kind of starts to careen and like go off the road. The guy then grabs the wheel of the car and steers the car off and like pulls it off onto the shoulder. Then he very calmly gets out of the car, gets his bicycle out of the boat, and pedals off toward a grocery store. This is the middle of the afternoon. It's like 4:35 in the afternoon.
It was some kind of thrill kill.
So yeah. Now, the shit's not over, though, because so the guy, like, rides his bike towards this grocery store.
Now, hold on.
What?
So he does this on the road.
Yeah.
Before they get to the grocery store.
Yeah.
And this is in traffic? Cars are going by? Or is the traffic very, sparse?
Well, I'm not sure, because I think it was, like, a parking lot, because they had just come in from, like, there's a boat ramp.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they had just loaded up the boat on the back of the car. And then this guy kind of came out. So I'm assuming it was like a parking lot or like a big open area. Like they usually have it like a marina or something.
Yeah.
And then he was going on the road toward where this condominium thing was.
Okay, now are we on a country road?
This is an island.
It's on an island.
And it's like near the water. It's like right near the Gulf.
Yeah, so there may have been no witnesses to this.
Well, I'm going to get to that though.
All right. Because it makes you wonder. Here I am. I'm the guy. I'm in this car. And I'm going to shoot and kill these people while the dude's driving. This is quite a reach. Think about it.
Yeah.
You're going to shoot a dude while he's driving and shoot his whole family while he's driving?
Yeah.
I mean, all you got to do is run the car off the road. You'd be killed pretty easily in a situation like that.
Yeah.
And then there's other witnesses everywhere. And then you're just going to get out and ride away like nothing happened. You've got to be insane.
That's kind of what I'm
thinking. You've got to be
thinking.
insane.
Because like I said, I mean, this is crazy.
You're going to get caught. You would think.
Yeah.
Right.
He didn't, though.
He didn't, but you would think.
Spoiler alert.
It was luck. That's pure luck that he didn't get caught.
Yeah. So what happens after that? Now, it so happened that, like I said, the guy had gotten out of the car and he'd got on his bike and started riding away. Now, there was a guy named Robert Matsky. He was a retired Air Force lieutenant colonel. Now, he lived on the island and he happened to be in the front yard of his condominium. And he saw the car, like, swerving and, like, going off the side of the road, and he saw the guy get out. Now, he didn't know that anyone had been shot in the car. He just thought something was the matter with the car, or they'd been in an accident or something like that. So, he says, he calls back to his wife, who's inside the house. He says, hey, call the police. I think there's been a car accident. I'm going to go see if everyone's all right or whatever. So he gets in his car, and he starts following the dude on the bike. Now, as he pulls up alongside the dude on the bike and is like, hey man, what happened back there? Are you all right? And everything like that. The dude on the bike pulls out a gun and shoots that guy in the head as well. Damn. While he's driving. Now, the truck that Robert Matsky is driving, obviously, kind of swerves off and hits another car in the grocery store parking lot. Now, this sequence of events was witnessed by a woman who was coming out of the grocery store. And again, she didn't know anyone had been shot. She just saw a car accident. Yeah. So she called the cops. Now, when the cops arrived, they were investigating what they thought was 2 car accidents. So they didn't immediately, like, close off the scene or anything. Like, they didn't know it was a murder at first. They just thought it was 2 car accidents. So what ended up happening was that all these kind of good Samaritans and stuff like that were around in the area were, like, helping, like, get the bodies out of the cars.
They were all dead?
Yeah. Well, no, Raymond Barrows did live. Okay. He had been shot in the head, but everyone else was dead. So, so they're pulling all the bodies out of the cars, and then finally the cops realize, holy shit, they've all been shot. because they just thought they'd been wounded in an accident because it was just blood everywhere. And by that point, it's like, everyone's already touched everything. They've all touched all the bodies. They've all touched the cars. It also happened that where the car had come to rest, like on the shoulder of the road, there was like a sprinkler had come on, and it kind of like washed a bunch of shit off the car. So if there was any, fingerprints
any description on the weapon?
The weapon I'm not sure about. They did get a description of the guy, which I will get to in a little bit, because several people did see him. Now, the same woman that called in what they thought was the second car accident with Robert Matsky's car hitting the other car in the parking lot, she said that the guy on the bicycle had gotten into the back seat of a tan Ford with a black top that was driven by another man who she couldn't really see because he was just shadowed, and the vehicle had like taken off. Like he took the bike, yeah, he put it like in the trunk. Okay. So he's not in any hurry.
And he wasn't alone.
Yeah, he had like another guy like waiting there for him.
Yeah. It was some kind of spree killing.
Yeah, it's like super weird.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that happened, and like I said, this is a summer afternoon, like a Friday afternoon, like on a vacation island. There's condos all around there. There's vacation cottages all around there. So there's people all over the place. Now, someone else did see the first thing that they thought was the car accident, like the car going off the side of the road with the 4 people in it. Now, this guy happened to be a person named John Toth. Now, he owned a TV repair shop on the island. He was also an amateur photographer, and he had his camera with him all the time. So when he saw the guy getting out of the car, he instinctively took a picture. Now, it turned out that he did get a picture of the killer. However, because he was in a hurry or he wasn't thinking about it, he forgot to turn on the autofocus. So there is a picture of the killer, but it's super blurry, and they couldn't tell who it was. So, as I said, Raymond Barrows, who was Dr. Dumois' brother-in-law, he lived, but everyone else died. Dr. Dumois died, the 2 boys died, and Robert Matsky, the guy that, the second guy, the Air Force colonel who went after the guy on the bike, he also died.
That's some weird shit.
So, yeah. So, they did like a big sweep of the island. They just, went everywhere else in Florida, like looking for this person. Now, they're trying to come up with a motive because this is some crazy shit. It's like, who the fuck does this? It's just in the middle of the fucking day with like people everywhere.
And it doesn't sound like he was by himself.
Yeah, and like he had like a getaway driver.
It's almost kind of sounds like something a small cult would do.
I mean, some people have thought that maybe it was a hit. Stuff I've read, they're like, oh, well, maybe the brother-in-law was like involved with some illegal shit, like a drug cartel or something like that, because they said, well, he was the first one shot, so maybe he was the target.
Sounds very unlikely.
But I'm like, well, here's the thing. If you sit in a car with 2 men in the front seat and 2 kids in the back seat, I mean, you would shoot the passenger first, then the kids, then the driver. I mean, you don't want to shoot the driver first because the car might fuck up and then everyone's going to be freaking out.
Usually if it's some kind of mob hit, whoever's going to be killed is well known by the
yeah.
So they know right where they live.
Right.
They don't have to do something like that. What they do is they just invite themselves over for some kind of friendly dinner. They all have dinner. They hang out. Yeah, you don't even know it's coming. You think everything's all right. You turn your back and they put a bullet in the back of your head.
Yeah, it's like why? It's like why would they do it? Why would they do it like in the middle of the day, like in a car? It just seems like so much could have gone wrong. Yeah. If it was a professional hit, it doesn't seem all that professional.
It was some kind of spree killing. Something maybe between 2 young guys, some kind of weird fantasy they had cooked up in their head. They might have been slightly nuts,
Yeah.
Aliens, They think aliens are taking over.
Yeah, maybe they were just crazy.
Crazy motherfuckers.
I mean, like I said, they were trying to come up with anything, really, because they wanted to, catch the person. They thought, well, Dr. Dumois had actually escaped from Castro's Cuba. It's like maybe it had something to do with that. He was a pediatrician. They even, went so far as to say, well, he was a pediatrician. Maybe he didn't, treat a kid and his parents got, pissed off. It's like they were just, really grasping at straws.
No, that's almost like victim blaming. It was random.
Yeah, I feel like it probably was too.
These 2 guys wanted to kill some people for the thrill of it, or something.
Yeah, because it's just I can't think of a possible reason that doesn't sound completely insane. They didn't know this dude. It's like there was a description of him. They said he was like a lean, muscular dude. He was about 6 feet tall, white guy, blue eyes, cleft chin. They said he had real thick brown hair, like combed back off his forehead.
It's gonna be something dumb.
Yeah.
It's gonna be something dumb, you know what I mean? They were just like they did it on a dare type of deal. And they were just nuts,
Yeah. I mean, they did have a couple of suspects. They did pick up this one guy, whose name was Richard Lee Whitley. And he was actually originally from Chicago, but like not long after the Kingfish Boat Ramp murders happened, they arrested him in Tampa because the FBI wanted him for a murder that had happened in Falls Church, Virginia, which I don't think it was like super similar, but he was in the area at the time. Now, the other guy that they picked up was named William Kuhlman, or Cullman, or however you say it. Now, he had actually been accused of murdering a woman in Bradenton, Florida, which is very near Tampa. I think it's a little bit north of there. And it was the same caliber weapon, which is a 22 handgun. Now, he got acquitted of that murder, but because of the similarity in the firearm, then he got picked up for this, but he was dismissed for this one too. So this case, and when I was doing the Conspiranormal show, this was one of the ones that he was like super interested in and was asking me about, just because this kind of shit just like very, very rarely, it's just random like that.
It was some kind of bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just some kind of bullshit. Two guys got high. You know what I mean? We're talking about killing people, and they had some kind of weird fantasy, and they worked themselves into it, and you be the getaway driver. It's something dumb.
Yeah,
guarantee you this is just something dumb, really dumb.
Yeah, because it definitely does seem like this dude just like wanders out of a bush, like with a bike or something, and is like, "Hey, let me get in your car."
It was pre-planned somehow. The guy, because what's the chances of you just like shooting 2 carloads of people, right? And then just happen to catch a ride.
Yeah.
Let me put my bike in your car. You know what I mean? Catch a ride from a stranger.
Yeah.
It's just no. That dude knew him.
Yeah.
He was in on it.
Well, yeah, clearly. I mean,
he was in on it.
It really looked like, from the woman's description, she basically said, yeah, he just totally, I don't even know if the guy asked the driver, just like threw his bike in the back and then like got in the fucking car and took off. They took off. So.
Yeah, it was 2 guys working together to kill some people.
Just for shits and giggles.
For shits and giggles, some kind of thrill kill.
That's what makes this like really crazy, because there's like like I said, there's no possible motive for that. They didn't know the guy. And I mean, even though Raymond Barrows lived, the brother-in-law, I'm assuming they questioned him extensively about who the person was and if he knew them and stuff like that, but he didn't know them. They knew what he looked like. They had a description, but because a bunch of people saw him, but nothing.
It was just some bullshit thing that these guys cooked up.
They just decided that they were just going to go shoot people one day.
Yeah. You'll go crazy trying to read into it. It was just some bullshit.
Well, it's not so much that I'm trying to read into it. It's just that it's really unusual. It's just an unusual situation.
There were just a couple of fucking psychos that were bored. They just wanted to kill some people.
Well, yeah, I guess so. I guess so.
Yeah.
All right, so we're almost at an hour, so I guess we'll take a break right now. When we come back, I'm going to talk about the Daytona Beach Killer, which I didn't even know about this motherfucker, and I'm from Daytona Beach, and I lived there when this was going on, even though I don't really remember hearing about it. So it's like all the shit, so I was like reading about it, and I'm like, oh my god, I know exactly where that is. Oh my god, I know exactly where that is. It was like freaking me out. So yeah, so we will talk about that when we come back, and we're going to take a break, and we'll be back in a minute. You love true crime. I love true crime. And I've spent the last 3 years compiling a series of the most intriguing unsolved murders of the 20th century. It's called The Faceless Villain, and Volume 3 is available now. Featuring such fascinating cases as the Ketty murders, the Carrie Babies case, the Frog Boys, the Alcasar murders, and the Inokashira Park dismemberment incident, The Faceless Villain Volume 3 is an involving exploration of unsolved slayings spanning the years from 1980 to 1999. Pick up your copy in print or ebook formats on Amazon, or download the audiobook version from audible.com, and get ready for a chilling journey through modern crime history.
What's up, baby cookie? Are you trying to get the bubbles? You trying to get the bubbles? How's that working out for you? Yeah? What you doing? What you doing? You gonna push on it? No? What's going on? Look it. Look. There's bubbles in there. There's bubbles in there. You need to get them. You need to get them. You need to get them. Oh, push it. Push it. Oh, you'll get him to come out. You'll get him to come out.
Conspiranormal Podcast proudly presents the Strange Realities Conference. Strange Realities. Come join us for one day of presentations on the paranormal with live music at night featuring Tim Banal,
The Rise and Fall of the Flat Earth Theory,
Joshua Cutchin,
Alien Hybrid Lore,
Joe Damari,
Pushing the Limits of Reality,
Guy Malone,
Roswell 1947, What Really Happened,
Timothy Renner,
Pennsylvania Wildman,
and added to the lineup, Mark Anthony Wyatt,
Cornish Legends and UFO Sightings,
Zach Hunt.
presentation of his book Unraptured,
Followed by a live recording of the Conspiranormal Podcast. More speakers and music acts to be announced. October 19, 2019, SIR Nashville.
Tickets and info at www.strangerealitiesconference.com. $40 at the door, $30 pre-sale.
All right, we're back for the second half of the show talking about Florida crime. Now, this one really wigged me out because this shit right here occurred in my hometown, my birthplace, Daytona Beach. And it happened while I was living there, and I don't remember hearing about it.
What years we talking about?
2005 to 2007.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and this
Recent.
is like, yeah, it's recent. And this is a serial killer, killed at least 4 people and never caught.
You weren't watching the news.
I guess I wasn't. I was, though. How could I have missed this?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's like really, really strange. But yeah, so as I said, this occurred from 2005 to 2007 in Daytona Beach, Florida. I'm going to have to put up a picture of Halifax Hospital in Daytona Beach, Florida, where I was born. Just because. So you can get an idea of like what it looks like.
Where you were born?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of just like what it looks like, you know.
All right.
Now, the first victim of the Daytona Beach Killer, they didn't give him like a cool nickname or anything, which I guess I'm glad that they're not really doing that anymore. Now they just kind of like name you after like wherever you're killing people at.
Right.
Like the Long Island serial killer. They're not giving you like cool fucking nicknames like the Night
It's not the
Stalker,
70s anymore.
Right.
Not the 70s and the 80s anymore.
Son of Sam. They're not giving you like badass sounding.
Actually, it was the news media that gave those people those names. Actually.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm glad they're not really doing that anymore. I think they actually did come out and discourage that. I think like
Right.
cops and FBI and stuff are like, please stop encouraging them. Just like call them a place name or call them something boring. So this guy, they're just calling him the Daytona Beach Killer. So the first victim. Now I was gonna say too, when we're talking about Daytona Beach, I mean, I think when people talk about true crime in Daytona Beach, you always think about Aileen Wuornos, right?
Yeah.
But she needs her own show, so that's
Right.
why we're not talking about her on this one.
Yeah.
And this was a serial killer that I had never heard of before. So, and everybody knows who Aileen Wuornos is. But we will do a show about her eventually because she is kind of an interesting character. So the first victim of the Daytona Beach Killer was a 45-year-old sex worker by the name of Laketta Gunther. Now, she was a known drug user. She did day labor and stuff like that too. Frequented bars along good old North Ridgewood Avenue, which I'm very familiar with. That's where all the streetwalkers hang out. But I used to go down there all the time too because there was, I don't think it's there anymore, but there used to be this really kick-ass store called Judy's Jazzy Boutique. And it was run by this really old lady and her daughter. And they had like that's where like you got all your good goth clothes, like all your rock star clothes. Jen from the Genitorturers used to shop there.
Okay.
Like she would be in there every now and then.
Yeah,
that was
she's
like the
a local.
only place that you could get anything cool, pretty
For
much.
you guys that know that band, she's a local around here. We run into her all the time.
Yeah, I've seen her at shows like several times, and I've seen her perform like lots of times around here because she's from.
She still looks the same too.
She does. She doesn't
Yeah.
look like she's aged at all. It's
Uh-uh.
like super freaky. So Laketta, As I said, going to bars up and down good old North Ridgewood. And, kind of hung out with a bad crowd like you do down there. She had 5 kids, I think, but she hadn't seen them in a while. And what ended up happening with her is that every year on Christmas Eve, she had this tradition. She had a friend named Stacy, and her and Stacy would like get together at one of their houses like on Christmas Eve, and they would kind of like, have a good time, have a couple drinks, and then they would like, start preparing like a bunch of food like for the next day, so they could celebrate Christmas together, because I guess neither of them had family in the area. So before that occurred, though, Laketta said that she was going to this bar called Chubby's, which I don't think is there anymore. I think I remember it, but I don't think it's there anymore. It's corner of North Beach Street and Madison Avenue, if anyone's there, if anyone lives there. So she decided she was going to go to the bar, and then she would come back to Stacy's house, and they would do their regular thing. Except she never came back from Chubby's. So her friend Stacy was kind of pissed off, because she thought that, oh, well, she just like, blew me off on Christmas Eve, and that was like our tradition and everything like that. So she stayed up waiting for her, but she never showed up. So then Christmas Day kind of comes and goes without her hearing anything from Laketta. Then on the day after Christmas, they found Laketta Gunther's body in an alley off of North Beach Street, which was within walking distance, because, I'm trying to think of where that is. But,
She got in a car with somebody.
That's within walking distance of Chubby's, where she was last seen alive.
Bet you she got in a car with somebody.
Yeah, well, probably.
Yep.
So
making some money.
So they actually found her. She was kind of in the alley. There was like kind of like it was like a little hole, or like a little tiny alley, like where you could like stick the body was like stuck in between there, like in this little gap, like in the wall. She was found naked except for a pair of socks. So again, this is a signature. This killer usually leaves his victims with just socks on or shoes, so they think that maybe it's like a foot fetish type of thing.
Does he take the clothes with him?
Evidently, because they don't usually find them. Now, interestingly, for a serial killer, this guy shoots people.
Okay.
With a .40 caliber pistol, revolver, whatever
40?
you want to call it. 40, yeah.
Yeah, it's a pistol, automatic.
Yeah. So she was shot in the back of the head, what the FBI or what the police called execution style.
Yeah.
Now, all right.
Which that infers that he's outside.
Yeah.
You don't shoot a person inside your car.
Well, not if you're smart.
Yeah, he's taking them somewhere. They're getting out, and he's fucking popping them.
Yeah. Now, the next victim was named Julie Green, and she was 34 years old. She was originally from Jacksonville. She had 2 kids. She had jobs, like, to start with. I think she'd worked as, like, a dog groomer and, like, gardening and things like that, but then got into crack cocaine and then started working as a prostitute. So, like Laketta, she often, like, walked up and down North Ridgewood Avenue and hung out in the bars there. I think they might have even known each other. She hung out at a bar called Willie's Place, which I think that might still be there. I haven't been back to Daytona in a while, and I haven't driven on North Ridgewood in many years, but I remember it being there last time I was there. That's on Madison Avenue. So, yeah, so the 2 of them were friends, these 2 victims.
Yeah, Daytona, for you people who have never been to Daytona sounds like it'd be like a really fun, hip place, because, damn, the 500s there, races and shit. Daytona's boring.
There's not a lot to do there.
Yeah, Daytona's boring.
Unless you're
There's nice houses there. There's some nice neighborhoods, but most of it's just kind of boring.
Unless you're into NASCAR.
Yeah.
Or if you're into, like, Harleys and, like, biker culture.
Yeah.
Because they have, like, 2 big, things. They have Bike Week and Biketoberfest. So if you're into that, or if you're into, like, beachy shit, like fishing and boating and stuff, there's a lot of that type of stuff going on. But other than that, it's kind of like, it's real rednecky. Like, a lot
Yeah.
of it's kind of rednecky.
Yeah, you'd think it'd be like metropolitan and sophisticated or something.
It's really not. I mean, it's better than it was when I was growing up. Like, it's grown a lot. Like, they're building a lot around it.
I wouldn't even call it rednecky. I'd just call it almost hick.
Yeah, it is very
almost
hick.
kind of hick.
Yeah.
They also got something there called the Cabbage Patch, that's like a fucking famous biker hangout.
Yeah.
Yeah, I rode down there once.
And if you pass it, it's like nothing to look at.
I looked at it and went, that's it?
Yeah. It's like hardly even a building. It's just like this tiny, it looks like an outhouse or something.
Yeah.
It's like bigger than that, but you know what I mean?
It looked boring.
That's what, that's what I mean. You have to be into that particular, like, old fat guys on Harleys, like, you know, listening to classic rock. And,
I went out there and said, maybe I'll go have a drink out there.
Yeah.
And I got there, it was in the afternoon. It was on my Buell.
Yeah.
And on the Lightning. And I got there and I went, this is it. Fuck this. Turned around.
Yeah, I think people. I wonder if
like,
people come from because people come from like all over the country to go to that go to Bike Week and stuff. And it's like, you know, we have like 500,000 people. We had like 500,000 people come, and it's like, so I always wonder if people that have never been there and they hear like tales of all these like biker bars and stuff, and then they see them and they're like, what the fuck? It's just like this dinky ass little nothing.
Yeah, it looked like a damn. From the outside of it, looks like a fucking like an ice cream shack.
Yeah, it's really small.
Yeah.
And I mean,
it looks like an old Dairy Queen.
Yeah. And I mean, during Bike Week, they'll build like an outdoor stage and they'll have like, you know, they'll set booths up and shit like that. And they'll have like, you know, the big tanks so like the naked girls can wrestle in the
If there was a bunch of bikes there, I would have stopped, but there was nobody there.
Yeah.
Just
well, you didn't go during Bike Week.
No, I didn't go during Bike Week. No, it was just.
I would not advise going there during Bike Week or Biketoberfest because the traffic is atrocious. Because, like I said, I mean, Daytona is not really that big a place, and you get like 500,000 people extra.
Yeah.
And it's like, it sucks too, because what sucked for me most was I used to live over, because if Daytona is like, there's a mainland. And then, you know, there's the Halifax River. And then there's, like, a little strip of land where the beach is. And, like, you know, it's only, like, a couple of blocks. So I used to live, like, most of my life I lived on the mainland. But for a little while, like, when I was in high school, I lived on the beach side. And whenever you had, like, I lived almost right by my high school and, like, right behind where the beach was. Like, I could literally, like, see the beach from my window. And whenever it was spring break... and then you get like 500,000 drunken, stupid college students like peeing in your yard and stuff. Yeah. So that was super not fun. And you couldn't go anywhere. Like as soon as you like pulled out of your driveway, there's like cars everywhere. There's idiots everywhere. It's like it was a nightmare.
It's just a small place. It's nothing.
It's really not. I mean, I think the population. I mean, this is kind of misleading, but like the population of Daytona Beach itself is probably only 50 to 60,000 people. But that doesn't take into account because there's like all these other towns like kind of around it. It's like, you know, there's, because I lived in Holly Hill, there's Port Orange, there's, you know, Daytona Beach Shores, you know, there's Ormond Beach, you know.
It's the kind of place where you would think by the name that there'd be some cool goth clubs there or some kind of cool dance clubs. They're not.
No, there's pretty much nothing.
Redneck bars, hick bars.
Like I said, it's better than it used to be. When I was in high school, there was a couple of punk clubs and like one really, really tiny, like kind of coffee house type place where like bands played and shit, because my brother used to be in punk bands. But and there's that one place, remember our friend Dimitri DJ'd at that one place there on Seabreeze?
It's a long time ago. Yeah, that was Daytona?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, remember we drove all the way. Well, he drove us.
That's right.
We drove all the way over to Daytona.
That's right.
So that's like better than it used to be.
Better than it used to be, yeah.
We didn't have anything like that. I mean, when I was growing up there, the big place, like if you were going to go out clubbing, was Rockin' Ranch.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Orlando blows it away.
Well, yeah.
Orlando blows it away.
That's why even when we were growing up, if we could get a ride, we would always come over here to go clubbing. We never went clubbing over there. Yeah. There was just nothing to do. There was nothing to do. Yeah. So it's like, it's a boring ass town. All right, so where was I? I lost my place. Okay, so Julie Green is the second victim. Now, she, her nickname was Sissy. Now, she was known as what they would call a hustler, meaning you had to watch her because she'd, like, steal all your money if you weren't watching. So she was, as far as I know, she was last seen using a payphone along Tomoka Road. And she had a friend that was waiting for her not too far away. I don't think she could see her at the time, but she was kind of waiting for her to go make a phone call and then come back. But she never came back. Body was found on January 14th, 2006. The body was actually found by a construction worker. They were working near LPGA Boulevard, which is like about a mile from where I used to live. It's like right off I-95. Like, you know, it's right off I-95 and they're building like a bunch of shit there because we just went to Daytona. I went there a couple months ago, like to visit my brother, and because he still lives over there. And I was amazed at like how much they were building like out by I-95. There's like all kind of new shit out there, and I was just like freaking out. But yeah, so that's where they found the body. They found her like kind of dumped in a ditch like near a construction site. She had also been shot in the back of the head, execution style, with a .40 caliber revolver. Yeah, so she had actually...
I got a feeling they don't know what's coming.
Maybe not.
Yeah. This guy might be necrophiliac. He's getting them after they're dead.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe it's the kind of thing where...
He doesn't want them around.
Or they don't really want to...
Yeah, they're taking their clothes off, something, he walks up behind them, pow!
Yeah, that's...
They may not even know it's coming.
Yeah. Now, police did actually find tire tracks near where the body was dumped. And they were able to identify these tire tracks as coming from a 2003 Ford Taurus or possibly a Mercury Sable. And they said that these were factory tires, meaning they had not been changed out since the car had been purchased. So, you know.
For all that's worth.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Now, interestingly, reportedly and according to her friends, Julie Green seemed to think that someone was after her, like before she was killed. She wrote a letter to her boyfriend, who was in prison at the time, and his name was Mitch. And she wrote him a letter that said something about him getting out March 3rd, and she said that, I need help, been up for days, sorry about the writing, very tired. If anything happens to me, Smiley knows all. So she said that in the letter. So the letter gets, the cops are investigating it. Now, they found out that she had written this letter about the same time that she had kind of been accused of stealing from an acquaintance of hers. Might have been drug money, might have been something like that. So they found out that Smiley was this guy, like a friend of hers, whose name was Rick Marcotte. Now, he ended up going to jail not too long after the murder because he had violated his parole for some other crime that he had done. Now, they did question him for the murder because of her thinking like that she was afraid of him, but it doesn't seem like, it didn't really seem like anything to do with it.
She might have been on these drugs in a wake for 3 or 4 days, like she said, and might have been half crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, she might have been, the thing about it is she might have been afraid of Smiley because she stole drug money from him, but that doesn't mean that he was the guy that killed her. Yeah. That might have just been a coincidence.
I got a feeling that whoever's killing these girls knows them from the bars.
Yeah, I feel like it's somebody that's...
Yeah, it's somebody they know and trust.
Well, it might be somebody that's frequenting.
Yeah, it's a regular.
I mean, I think they do have like a profile of this guy, but,
I bet you it's somebody that they know and trust. That they've done business with this person or met or hung out with this person before.
Yeah.
They don't see him as a threat. That's probably what it is.
Now, that's
usually what it is.
Yeah. Now, there was something else that was attached to the letter that Julie had sent to her boyfriend, and she had it was a picture, like a photograph, and it was of Julie and another woman, apparently a friend of hers. And the note on the picture says, "Find her, she can help." But they never did find out who that other girl in the picture was. They know one of them was Julie, obviously, but the other girl, they don't know who that is. So that's, again, another really weird thing.
Yeah, and they don't know if that has anything to do with the murder.
And they don't know if it has... Well, but I mean, like I said, you have to explore every avenue like that because you never know. Now, the next victim was named Iwana Patton. And she She was originally from Buffalo, New York, but lived in Holly Hill, which was where I mostly lived. She was not a prostitute that I know of, but she had actually worked at an assisted living facility. She was a nurse. She had been arrested for prostitution before, but they weren't, like, a long time ago, but they weren't sure if she was still doing it. She had, like, a regular job, but apparently it didn't really pay all that much because she was still, like, picking up her mail at, like, the local homeless shelter and stuff, because assisted living nurses
She might have been.
sadly does not pay all that much
She
money either.
might have been making some side money.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So, she did kind of, like, hang out by the homeless shelter. It might be the one that I'm thinking of. Probably because it's in that area. Now, her brother actually happened to be a cop here in Orlando. Now, also, Iwana knew Julie Green, they think. So a lot of these girls were friends, or like at least kind of knew each other, because they all hung out in the same bars and everything like that. And they'd even like been over to each other's houses and
Part
shit.
of the same scene.
Yeah, it was.
I tell you, man,
exactly.
the killer's in that scene too.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Now, she had also, she went missing. And then February 24th, 2006, police get an anonymous phone call that came from a payphone at a gas station on Bill France Boulevard, which is not too far from the Speedway. And the person that called said that him and his girlfriend had found a body. So he gave the cops the location of the body, but would not give his name or identification or anything like that. He said, we were just out for a walk and we found the body. Bye. So they found Iwana Patton's body on a dirt road near Mason Avenue and Williamson Boulevard, not far from the Daytona Beach Police Department. Also down the road just from I-95. She had also been shot in the head with a .40 caliber revolver. She had actually looked like she had struggled, unlike the other ones. So she might have like turned and seen, I think she was actually maybe shot in the side or the front of the head, not the back of the head. So I think she maybe knew something was up. Like the other women, I don't really know because it didn't look like they struggled. So it just looked like somebody snuck up behind him and shot him. Now, from this particular scene, they found semen. So they were able to get a DNA profile. So they do have a DNA profile of this killer. They also found a shell casing and were able to identify the specific weapon as a .40 caliber Smith & Wesson Sigma Series VE.
Common.
Yes.
Common, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Kind of like that's Smith & Wesson's version of a Glock. Wasn't quite as successful as Glock on the market, but it was actually a good pistol. You can get them cheap now.
Yeah.
A used one, yeah. They're not. They were kind of like an off-brand in a way, because like Glock owned that plastic frame gig. You know what I mean? And then Smith got into it. They wanted the plastic frame gig, but you always kind of had this weird feeling that you were buying an imitation Glock.
Yeah.
But Sigma was all right. Some cops used it, but they ended up on the used market for cheap. That's probably where he got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said, that's a pretty common.
There's lots. They made lots of them.
Yeah.
They made lots of them. Yeah.
They actually ended up finding Iwana Patton's car a few days after her body was found. It was parked behind a speech therapy center near Ridgewood Avenue, and this was like right around the same area where the other two women like hung out, like where all the bars were and stuff like that. Now, as I said, pretty much from the beginning, they knew that these crimes were linked just because they're very similar. A lot of the bodies were dumped in similar types of areas. They had all been shot with the same weapon, it appeared. And all the women were either currently or had previously worked as prostitutes and all hung out in the same area. So after the investigation into these three, and like I said, they pretty much knew from the beginning that they were linked, they started developing a profile of the probable killer. Now, according to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, particularly Special Agent Tom Davis, he seems to think that this killer is probably a white dude, that he probably has a girlfriend or a wife that either gives him a lot of grief or that he has a lot of resentment for, and that he is taking it out on prostitutes or on these other women. They think that he has a regular job and like a regular life, but that he frequents prostitutes and hangs out in these bars like on the down low. So they think that he's probably an acquaintance or a regular customer.
I would say regular.
Of these women, but that he's probably really good at blending in. Like he probably seems like a normal person. Like he's probably married. He probably has a normal job. All this other kind of shit.
And I'm going to say he's gone now.
He may be, because he did kind of stop suddenly.
Well, he probably knows about that DNA that they got. If you got that DNA, then you better disappear.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he's probably was staying home.
But they think that he's kind of going to be one of those guys that probably goes to hookers all the time, but that
Maybe he's not going to kill him anymore.
When something bad went on in his life, like he was particularly stressed out one day, he would kill them.
If they ever have reason to take his blood and they'll match him with that DNA, he's a goner.
Yeah.
So, if I was him, I'd stay home.
Yeah.
Yeah, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not a serial killer, but I'm just saying.
I'd stay home, bro.
They also think that he might have some kind of foot fetish, like I said, or some kind of thing, because many of the victims, because I think all the victims were found, like, with just their socks on. Like, they were naked, except they still had socks on.
He's of that scene. He's local.
Yeah, that's what they're thinking. They're like, this is somebody that visits prostitutes or hangs out at that same place, but is kind of keeping it on the DL.
Yeah,
that's what they're thinking.
That shit went down, and he didn't disappear. He stayed in the area.
Yeah.
Going to the same clubs over, and so he could pick up from the street what was happening. So he could keep his ear to the ground, and he didn't want to disappear and look conspicuous.
Yeah.
Then over a period of a few years, he kind of faded away. That's probably what happened.
Yeah, he could be listening to this show right now.
Yeah, I'd fuck him up.
But as I said, they do have this dude's DNA, and so they're like, okay, well, he doesn't match anyone's, because after a certain year, like if you're arrested, and you get of a felony, then they will take your DNA, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, if he has ever been arrested, it was either before that or he's never been arrested for anything.
He's never been arrested. He can't be arrested. If he's arrested and they take his DNA, he's fucked.
Yeah. Because they've tested like a whole bunch of other people in prisoners.
They don't take your
stuff
DNA at arrest, though. I think they take your DNA after a conviction.
At conviction.
When you're processing into prisons and
I think it depends on the state.
Does it? Yeah, okay.
I mean, I'm not, please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not entirely sure, but I think, the state laws are different.
If I was him, I wouldn't be sleeping too soundly at night, because this show right here, we found out that all it takes is one of your cousins or one of your distant relatives to go to one of those damn DNA search, what is it? The heredity search program.
Yeah, whatever that's called.
And then they'll, all of a sudden, based on their DNA, it comes up and goes, hey, this person's got a second cousin that killed somebody.
Yeah.
Their DNA is on match. On record.
Well,
that's how they caught D'Angelo.
Yeah. And they've caught other ones too. He was just the most famous. Mm-hmm. Because now that worked that time, for that motherfucker, they're just kind of like, well, shit, woo. They're just they're going to do it for everything now.
You can't get away with this shit talking about it. Not like it was back in the day.
Yeah, like I said. And I was like, we were talking about this last time where it's like...
That blood chemistry, bro.
And I was talking about this on the Conspiranormal show too. It's just the types of crimes that you see, yes, there are still serial killers, obviously, because, this wasn't that long ago. But it really, you don't see the same types of serial killers.
You also don't see the longevity. They don't last as long.
Exactly. Yeah, it's you don't see one that's killing 30 people, 50 people, and for years and years and they don't get caught.
No.
It's
all you have to do is just have a second or a third cousin go to the damn internet and send them a drop of blood to try to figure out where in Europe they come from. Yeah. And then boom, all of a sudden the cops are like...
And that's the thing, you can't...
What's your second cousin's name? Yeah, that kind of shit,
Because that's... And in a way, that's kind of what's interesting about how D'Angelo got caught, because it wasn't like they took someone's DNA. I mean, someone uploaded their DNA, willingly, because they were looking for something else, and it just so happened...
Triangulated them.
That they triangulated it down to his stupid ass.
Yeah.
And they did have to back it up, because they did have to steal shit out of his garbage and stuff like that. But it's
But it was a clue that got them to your doorstep.
Yeah.
And they're going through your garbage and looking for the things you threw in the garbage.
Yeah.
Get that to match up with your DNA.
I think probably the best course of action would be not to be a serial killer. And then you don't even have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Makes your life so much easier.
I couldn't sleep at night.
That's what I mean. How could you? I mean, it's like, I don't understand it. Well, like I said, that's the reason they're serial killers, and I'm not, because they're a fucking psychopath. That's
why. I'd be thinking that the SWAT team is going to bust through the wall at any moment.
Well, you might not. You might not be too far wrong.
Yeah.
You never know when they're going to get you.
Yeah.
I don't know why you'd want to live with that kind of stress, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got enough stress in my life, and I'm not even a serial killer. So it's like I can't even. I would never get any sleep or anything. Yeah. It's like fucking hell. Okay, so now for a while. They were actually questioning police officers in the area about these crimes. So there's been rumors swirling for years that this might be a cop or an ex-cop.
It's because of that pistol.
Yeah.
40 caliber, and the Sigma was, 40 caliber is a law enforcement caliber, especially back in those days. It's been kind of retired from most departments now because the way all you got to do is just look at videos of body cams of police shootings. It doesn't matter if they're using 40 or 9mm. Those cops they unleash a hailstorm of fucking rounds on a perpetrator. Adrenaline,
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what caliber it is, as long as it can penetrate. 9mm is good enough. It's cheap,
Yeah.
So they kind of retired 40. 40 is a good caliber, Some people were like, well, it's in between 45 and 9mm. It isn't. It's more powerful than 45. It's more powerful than 9mm, especially in certain loads. It's like a light 10mm. So, the cops really, they just went more for low recoil and just more capacity,
Yeah.
It doesn't recoil as much. You can fit an extra 3 or 4 of them in your pistol magazines, But it's a good cartridge, and the Sigma was used by certain law enforcement agencies, I believe, for a while. And 40 was. And what year did this happen?
2005 to 2007.
Yeah, that was still during the heyday of 40. And
well, that might be one of the reasons that they're suspecting that it might be a cop.
And the Sigma was, some law enforcement guys used it. I think some agencies may have had it. The only reason why the Sigma got kind of pushed to the rear is because it didn't get updated, and it was never updated for modern accessories like lights to hang underneath it and certain optics. It didn't have Picatinny rails on the bottom of it, and it never really they stopped making them before things started to become kind of standardized in the pistol world. So you can get them used cheap now because nothing modern can go on it. It's hard to get it different. Yeah. Those little tactical lights and all that shit. It's hard to get that to fit on a Sigma now. But they came from a time before all that, or proprietary rails. Some of the guys in the audience know what I'm talking about. But in those days, I don't think the Sigma was a bargain pistol. It was, still a pretty full price pistol. I wouldn't necessarily call it tier 1, but yeah, maybe it was. It's Smith. It's okay. I think most guys like SIGs and Glocks, but there were SIGs out there. So I think they maybe thought that might be a cop.
Yeah. Or a former cop, or maybe a cop groupie, like some of the serial killers that we've been talking about.
Although, man, it's hard to tell because, you know what I mean? You can find, guys with HKs and SIGs and exotic weaponries, and they don't have anything to do with law enforcement.
Yeah.
If you have enough money, you can buy it. If you got a
they might have some other reasons for suspecting
that.
There
may be some reason. Kind of like they think he's a cop because he's comfortable in that environment. He's comfortable carrying a gun in that environment. Maybe they detect that he knows a little bit of law enforcement investigative techniques.
Yeah.
Although the guy left his DNA behind, so how much could he actually know? That's a rookie mistake. I think he's just a regular dude.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, like I said, other than them thinking that he's a cop and like rumors about that, there were like a couple of leads, a couple suspects, shit like that. So in 2006, a little later on, after the third murder, So this woman reports to police that she thinks the killer might be her ex-husband. He had a history of violence. He was a paranoid schizophrenic, etc., etc. Now, she claimed that her ex-husband had admitted to her that he had shot a woman at close range, which, that sounds kind of suspicious. Now, the cops put her in protective custody and then went in her house and took like all this DNA. So supposedly it's supposed to be his DNA. However, this DNA did not match the sample that they had on file. Now, another suspect that they looked into was this homeless guy named David Gibson Lindsay, who actually went by the name Rich Lindsay. Now, evidently, he had been convicted of killing his wife in 1988. He actually beat her up and then suffocated her with a plastic bag. He got sentenced to 19 years in prison, but he was let out in 1997. Now, after he was let out, they think that he killed another guy, like an old man named Austin Runyon, in 2001, who was strangled and beaten to death. Now, this was in Illinois. So after that crime happened, and I guess he was like a suspect in it, and he fucking took off and went and lived in Daytona Beach, and he was like hanging out, like living in a homeless shelter. He was like living as a homeless person, like trying to escape. So he was arrested in June of 2006 because there was a warrant out for him, obviously, because he had run away from Illinois. And he was, they were going to extradite him back to Illinois, and they took his DNA while he was in custody, but he was also not a match to the killer. Now, he did get extradited back to Illinois and stand trial for the other shit that they thought, like killing the old guy. Like I said, he did get convicted of killing his wife, but he only served 8 years of a 19-year sentence for whatever reason. So basically, they're getting nowhere. They're like catching people. They have suspects and shit, but they still haven't found a DNA match. Now, interestingly, or not, there was another murder, a fourth one, even after all this like DNA shit was going on. Now, this was a 30-year-old woman named Stacy Gage. She lived in Holly Hill, like I said, where I also lived. She had actually dropped out of high school and had 2 kids by the time she was 21 years old. She was actually, they did not think she was a prostitute, although she was a drug addict. She was addicted to crack, and she had been arrested on, drug possession charges and various things like that. She had been trying to kind of, get out of it, but she kept falling back into drugs again, and, so she was really struggling with it. She had 2 kids that were, in elementary school, and she was really trying to get her life back together. Now, December 10th, 2007, Stacy borrowed her grandmother's vehicle, which was a Plymouth Voyager, which it's a minivan, isn't it?
I think so.
So she just wanted to borrow the car. She was going to go to the Publix and get some ice and some groceries and shit like that. Now, she was seen on Publix's security cameras, just going about her business. But after that, she was never seen again. As I said, they're not sure if she was a sex worker or not, but they're saying maybe it's a possibility. Maybe she had set up a date with somebody like on fucking Craigslist or something like that. There's no way of knowing. So they didn't know where she was for several weeks afterward. However, they did find her body on January 2nd, 2008. Now, interestingly, she was actually kind of found by accident because a cop had pulled over to do some paperwork and shit in his car. So he just happened to pull over on the side of this road somewhere, near an old church, and he rolled down the window and smelled something decomposing. And she was only about 15 yards off the side of the road. She'd just been left there by the church. So she was really decomposed. So they weren't entirely sure. They did know that she'd been shot in the head, just like the other victims. They could not, definitively determine whether it was the same gun just because she was so decomposed. but it's possible it was the same one. They said it was either a 40 caliber, 45, or 32. Now, they did not get any DNA this time. They did estimate that she had died somewhere around December 11th, which was the day after she was seen. They did find the minivan about a week afterward on January 9th. It was in an apartment complex, like the parking lot of an apartment complex on South Beach Street, which
So
is...
he took it and drove it around.
Yeah, he might have driven it around for a while.
And he dumps it in a place where no one would be looking.
Yeah.
Which is in an old apartment complex.
Well, no, it was actually full. Like, it was college students. North
Yeah.
Beach Street, that might be Embry-Riddle students.
Yeah, but you could like hide it in plain sight. Nobody would
Yeah,
think anything.
they did ask like a bunch of the students. They're like, "Did you guys see this van?" And they said that it had been there for about a month, but that no one really thought anything about it because they didn't know who it belonged to. So it was just parked there for a month, and they didn't worry about it.
Right.
So for a little while in 2008, they had, the Daytona Beach Police Department and whatnot had like a task force to investigate these 4 connected murders. They did DNA tests on, they had volunteers with DNA tests. They had fucking, all the criminals and stuff that they could get their hands on, the DNA tested. None of them were a match. So they feel like this guy either just stopped or moved somewhere else. Now, interestingly, the Orlando Sentinel published an article about unsolved murders in Florida back in 2010, and they talked a lot about the Daytona Beach Killer. And they're speculating that, and this was also around the same time that the FBI started that highway crimes initiative or whatever it was, where they were talking about like the Long Island serial killer and stuff.
Yeah.
And the Orlando Sentinel pointed out that, there have been 19 unsolved murders along the I-4 corridor, which, if you're not from Florida, goes all the way across the state from Daytona to Tampa, and goes through Orlando. So they are speculating that this might be a trucker. You know what I mean? Because this kind of does happen a lot. Now, some people have also kind of tried to tie the Daytona Beach Killer in with the Long Island serial killer, saying maybe it's the same person, because they said now when there was gaps in the Long Island serial killer case, like when there were gaps in when the killings happened, then there were some down here. You know what I mean?
Like,
and then after they stopped, like he was moving back and forth. I mean, it could be, but who knows?
It could just be statistical. It might be more than one guy.
Yeah, and some people have thought too that the Long Island serial killer is more than one person, and that just happens to be like a really good dumping ground, and that more than one person is using that. And like for sure, I mean, we did a show about it before, but like for sure the one woman that ran away from the house and then they ended up finding her, that's how they ended up finding all the other bodies, because she ran off and then they found her dead later. I don't even think she was murdered. She might have been an accident.
Now, they found out where the killings are taking place. They're finding the bodies.
Yeah.
But are they killed there or just dumped there?
See, I think they're just dumped there.
Right.
It seems like.
Because nobody's reporting any gunshots.
Yeah.
40 Smith & Wesson's loud.
Yeah.
Although, you know what I mean, people fucking fire off rounds all the time in the United States and nobody ever reports it.
Well, because you don't necessarily...
firecrackers.
Yeah, it sounds like firecrackers or a car backfiring or something like that. It's like that's the first thing you would think. You wouldn't think that somebody was shooting up the place unless you live in a really bad neighborhood.
Right, and they ignore it. They're used to it.
Well, yeah, there's like, oh, there it goes again.
Yeah, knock it off. Because it doesn't... Because you hear shots doesn't mean people are shooting each other.
Yeah.
That's a misconception.
I mean, and you would hope
a lot of times they're just shooting off into the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I said, some people have been attempting to link this and say that this is maybe a truck driver, somebody that travels around, and maybe that's why the Daytona Beach Killer stopped doing what they were doing. Now, there were a couple of other unsolved murders in the Orlando area that they speculate might have been related, although the MO was slightly different. July of 2007, there was a 37-year-old woman named Kelly Lanthorn, and she was killed in Orlando. She was also found naked. There was also another victim who was named Reagan Kendall. She was 48. Now, she was found in August of 2007 near Kissimmee, which is about where Disney World is. Now, she had been dismembered. So that seems a little bit different, because it seems like the Daytona Beach Killer was just like a rape him and shoot him.
Where'd they find her? Just on the side of the road?
Field. It was a field.
Was she wrapped up, or the body parts just there?
Don't know.
Because dismember, they did that to make it easier to carry.
Yeah.
Most likely.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah.
And then there was...
Which means that it was done probably like in an apartment.
Yeah.
That's usually
like
why
in
they
the
do
tub
that.
or something.
Yeah, done. Yeah, I think that's usually dismemberment is the sign of that it happened in an apartment.
Yeah, because you can't just like be outside like cutting someone up.
Yeah. It happens in an apartment, and you can't get the body out whole without being noticed because you have to pass everybody's,
Yeah, carrying
doors
something that
and-
looks
and
like a body.
Then you're going, and then you're going down into like a parking lot. It attracts too much attention. So
Here, it's just garbage. Let me throw it over my
Yeah.
shoulder like that.
So they cut them into smaller
Clearly not a
parts and
body.
they just put them in damn bags.
Yeah.
And take them out little by little.
Well, like I said, that fucking case we were talking about the other day where they just like cut up bodies and then just put them out with the garbage and they never fucking found them.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like sometimes the easier shit is like that's the shit that you get away with.
Put them in the garbage.
Yeah, you just put them on the side of the road, the garbage truck takes them away and you're like...
Yeah, they don't even think about it.
Yep. Crazy.
Right.
Now, there was another one. This actually happened in Castleberry, which is not that far from where we are right now. This was a 39-year-old woman named Lisa Marie French. And she used to work in Daytona, so they think there might be some link there as well. Although she had been strangled, they said she was kind of decomposed when she was found, so they weren't able to establish cause of death with any certainty, but they think she might have been strangled. Now, they think they caught the guy that did that, but they're not sure if he was the Daytona Beach Killer or not. So they caught this guy named Jerry Lee Williams, who, he was a serial rapist. Now, they think that he attacked at least 6 women between 2003 and 2007. Now, he did plead guilty to killing Lisa Marie French, and he got life in prison. So, like I said, it's possible that that's the same person because she did have, like, links to Daytona, but the MO was kind of different, so not really sure. Now, one guy who they're kind of looking at with a lot of interest for these particular cases is this guy named Juan David Ortiz. Now, in September of 2018, in Laredo, Texas, 4 sex workers were murdered there as well. 29-year-old Melissa Ramirez, 42-year-old Claudine Ann Luera, 35-year-old Griselda Alicia Hernandez Cantu, and 28-year-old Nikki Enriquez, who was actually a transgender woman. Now, these 4 sex workers were also shot with a .40 caliber handgun. So they are speculating that this guy might have been living in Daytona and then killed these 4 women, and then he moved to Laredo, Texas, and he's doing the same shit over there.
I don't know, man. 40's awful that's an awful common caliber.
I know, but
I mean, that's just the main law enforcement caliber. In what years were these again?
Well, now the Daytona ones were 2005 to 2007. Yeah. Now the Texas ones were 2018.
Yeah, okay. But 40 is still out there.
Yeah.
It's still out there, and it's very common. And a lot of used police pistols hit the market. You could get very high quality tier 1 pistols out there used for cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, ex-police pistols. You can get nice fucking Smiths and everything. Fucking even Glocks in 40 because most of your police departments kind of dropped 40, so you can get high quality 40s on the surplus market.
Yeah.
So it's just a coincidence. 40 is almost as common as 9mm now.
Yeah.
So
maybe,
and
but
9mm is almost as common as 22. I mean, it's very common.
But the thing about it is that it's not so much just that the firearm is common, but it's like serial killing is not all that common. And
serial killers with guns are not all that common.
And to target sex workers specifically, and they were killed in the same way. It just seems like...
You're trying to say it's the same fingerprint.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying that's very similar. I mean, serial killing is very rare, and like you said, serial killing with a firearm is exceptionally rare.
Yeah, they don't like those.
No. Because like I said, it's a fetishistic thing usually, right, so they'll use like a bladed weapon or something like that.
Hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they usually strangle or stab. They don't usually shoot people.
Shooting makes a lot of noise. It tells me that he's got privacy when he's doing this. He's taking them somewhere.
Maybe so. Now, this guy did get caught after, like I said, these 4 women turned up dead in Texas. Now, he had apparently abducted another woman with the intention of killing her, but she got away and reported him. Now, he was 35 years old at the time, which was last year. Now, he was actually a Navy veteran. He'd been in the Navy from 2001 to 2009. And he'd been transferred to a whole bunch of different military bases on the East Coast and the Midwest and stuff like that. Now, after he was discharged, he went to work for the Border Patrol. He worked there from 2009 to 2018. And was, by all accounts, an exemplary employee. Like, he'd only had like one very minor like behavioral infraction or something. It's like, so no one suspected him of anything. He was also like very well educated. He's married. He had a kid. Now, he did actually confess to the kidnapping of this one woman, and it was also attempted murder. That probably would, and he also admitted to the other 4 as well. So he said that he had used the 40 caliber handgun was his service weapon.
So it was issued to him.
And that he had used that to kill all of them. And he said he was what they would call a mission style killer. His aim was to eradicate all the prostitutes.
Yeah. Although that's the excuse that they give.
Yeah.
I don't think that's really what the deal is. But he didn't confess to the ones in Florida, though.
No.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it's possible that, because like I said, he was in the Navy all that time, and he was at some different bases like along the East Coast, so it's possible he could have been living around there at that time.
Could have been, but usually if you're going to go ahead and confess to these over here, you're going to go ahead and confess to the other ones too, because they'll just make your legend larger,
True.
You're
like
gonna
I said,
you're going to get life in prison, so why not,
It just really does seem like strange that you got 2 serial killers running around
That's another one.
doing the exact same thing. Yeah, that's even scarier.
That's another
like
one.
To think that it's like not even that it's not even the same person. So yeah, like I said, it's possible it's that guy, but who knows? And as far as I know, I don't think they've like compared the DNA because it didn't say anything about that. So you'd think that they would be able.
Well,
to
they
do
have
that.
his DNA and it didn't match because they would have said so.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
But yeah. So before we wrap up the show, we'll do one more little brief case. This is the case of
A briefcase?
Yeah, it's a briefcase.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
This is the Seminole Heights Killer.
All right.
Now, unlike the other 3, we'll leave it on a sort of happy note, because this guy at least got caught, allegedly. He hasn't been convicted yet, but I believe he's either awaiting trial or he's on trial at the moment. So the Seminole Heights Killer. This is a serial killer believed to have murdered 4 people in the Seminole Heights neighborhood of Tampa, Florida, in October and November of 2017.
Recent.
Now, this is a very interesting serial killer because he also shot people and he just picked people at random. Like, it wasn't even like he didn't have a victim profile or nothing. It just seemed like he was just driving around and going, hey, I'm going to pop that
Just kind of like a spree killer.
Yeah, it was more like a spree killer. And it happened, like I said, over pretty much. So, is that rain?
Rain.
Oh my goodness.
Coming.
I was just like, what's
It's
that
like
noise all of a
cloudburst,
sudden?
Yeah.
So the first victim of this killer, this happened on October 9th, 2017, about 9 p.m. There was a guy named Benjamin Edward Mitchell, which is weird because Edward Mitchell is my dad's name. He was waiting at a bus stop in the Seminole Heights neighborhood of Tampa. He was 22 years old, African-American man, and he was basically going to get on the bus, and he was going to go see his girlfriend, and somebody just cruised by and shot him. Next
Like
victim,
a drive-by.
it was kind of like that, yeah. So the next victim was named Monica Caridad Hoffa. This was October 13th. She was 32 years old, white, female. She was walking to her friend's house and was shot dead. Just by somebody walking by, apparently. Next victim was named Anthony Naboa. He was a 20-year-old Hispanic man. Shot dead about 8 p.m. on October 19th. He was actually had some mental disabilities. He had autism and ADHD. And he was actually, so he's just like walking down the street and shot in the head by someone walking by. Next victim was happened on November 14th. This was Ronald Felton. He was a 60-year-old man. He was just crossing the street, and the suspect came up behind him and just fatally shot him.
Damn, were there witnesses to all this?
I would assume, because I mean, this happened at
Broad daylight, huh?
well, this happened at almost 5 a.m.
Okay.
The victim was actually going to he was going to this church that he volunteered at, like he fed the homeless and stuff. So he was going in there early to like set up.
Yeah.
And
just
he was
out of the blue,
he was just walking across the street, and like somebody just like fucking shot him. So they were able to connect all of these crimes because, I mean, honestly, because, like I said, because the victim profile is so different and people are just like randomly shot in the street, you wouldn't necessarily think they were all linked.
Right.
But they were able to figure out that they were all the same Glock handgun. And so kind of like that whole, and they were all in the same neighborhood. So pretty much the whole neighborhood is like freaking out. They're all in lockdown. I think it was like Halloween happened around that time too. Yeah. So they were like trying to like monitor everyone when they were out trick-or-treating, and a lot of people didn't go. They put out like $110,000 reward leading for information.
And he wasn't picked up on camera or anything?
He actually was. That's the next thing I was going to say. Now, two of the murders, the murders of Mitchell and Felton, did show up on surveillance cameras. Now, the suspect was wearing a hoodie that looked like, they said on the video it looked light colored, but they said, well, because it's infrared, like it might actually be dark, so he might have all black clothing on. Because they had another witness that said they thought that the guy had like a dark colored hoodie on. So the suspect was described as a black male, thin build, light complexion, about 6 feet to 6 feet 2 inches tall. Now, interestingly, this is really weird. So this guy, Howell Donaldson III, he's at the McDonald's that he works at, which is in Ybor City, which is where the castle is.
I remember this guy now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he works at the restaurant. He tells his manager, whose name was Delonda Walker, that he's like, I have to go to an Amscot to like cash a check or whatever to get some cash, and then I'm going to leave town. And then he gives her like a bag with a gun in it. Yeah. So. Yeah, he says, hold this for me. Yeah. So she, understandably, calls the cops. Yeah. Now it just so happened that there was a cop car in the McDonald's parking lot at the very time that she called. Right. So they just waltzed right in and arrested his stupid ass. Yep. I remember when that happened. That was in the news. So they asked if they could search his car, and he said yeah. So they searched the car. They found bloodstained clothing, which looked just the same as, you know, the clothing that had been in the video and the clothing that had been described to them. They also tracked his cell phone records and found that he had been in all the areas, you know, at the times when the murders took place, like, you know, all his locations. Yeah, I saw correct. The guy. He's a wiry, kind of tall, wiry, jittery looking fuck. And you could tell he's kind of like a fucking schizo type, real skittish spree killer. Yeah. I mean, you know, you're not talking about a criminal mastermind at all, you know. He's just going around. It seemed like he was just going around shooting people. Yeah, and then he just worked at McDonald's, and he was just like walking around shooting people just for the fuck of it. Yeah, he's one of these numbskulls that somehow got his hands on a pistol. I don't think he bought that from a store. I think he just, a friend gave it to him or something. Or he bought it off of somebody he knew, and he was like one of these guys where I'm going to try this out. I'm going to try this pistol out. It's something like that. It probably was just like, as simple as that. Wow, it works. You know what I mean? It works. Yeah, I'm going to shoot somebody else. Oh man, it works. Wow, this works really good. Yeah, you weren't dealing with a real bright guy. Well, clearly. You can tell, you know. Yeah. But yeah, so he just had some mental problems. Yeah, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, so they did a ballistics test, and they did find out that it was his Glock that had shot all of the people. Yeah. So he was arrested. Now, he has not... Like, he's still awaiting trial. His trial doesn't start until next year, y'all. August 20th, 2020. Yeah. So, we'll see how that goes. But it does seem like he will probably get convicted.
Oh yeah, he's toast.
I always like to know, like, because every time I write about unsolved cases a lot, where they always say, oh, there's a $100,000 reward, yada yada, and you never hear about anybody getting that. But now in this case, the manager of the McDonald's
did get it. Huh?
She got it.
Yeah,
she got the reward because she called and narked on it because he's like, here, hold, and she's like, no, well, this is some sketchy shit right here.
She thought he was a jittery, sketchy fuck to begin with, and. He wasn't the kind of guy that she thought should have a gun. So she's like, this dude's up to some shit.
Yeah.
And he was.
I kind of feel, what freaks me out? It's like...
He didn't have a carry conceal permit. He's walking around with a damn pistol.
You know what freaks me out is like, because we go to Ybor City from time to time, because that's where the castle is. And I used to go there like pretty much every weekend. It's like, I might have been in that McDonald's. Yeah. And that guy might have been working there.
You can't overthink any of this shit because it could happen anywhere at any time.
Well, yeah, I know.
Here's another one that we could be laying up in that bed and get swallowed up by a sinkhole.
I think about that sometimes.
Because this area, whole houses have vanished down into damn sinkholes and the people never found.
Yeah.
Remember that dude?
Yeah.
They said, he fucking went down to that sinkhole. That's it. His fucking half of his whole house went into the sinkhole.
It's like Drag Me to Hell, man. Yeah. That's what it's like. Seriously.
And it appeared just in a few minutes. House was there, and then all of a sudden, house was swallowed
up. We probably should worry about that more than getting murdered, I would think.
House swallowed up by the fucking earth. Yeah. That's some weird shit.
Cause fucking underneath Florida, it's just all...
Something bad.
There's just...
Something bad.
There's just like there's like
it's like dairy.
It's like coquina rock, and it's like there's like holes and pockets, and there's all kind of like, and we're right at the water level, like we're right at sea level. So if you go to the beach and like dig down like 2 feet, there's fucking
I think it was
water.
here in Florida where they had to abandon that whole city, huh? Or was that in Alabama? Where was that?
I can't remember actually.
A bunch of poisonous gases started coming out of the ground, and houses started to fall down into sinkholes. And
that is one thing I worry about because...
houses disappeared into sinkholes, and then a whirlpool of water happened.
Yeah, that's right.
And then they had to evacuate...
Was that Florida?
I thought that might have been Florida.
That sounds like some Florida shit.
They had to evacuate like a whole neighborhood, thousands of people, brand new houses, because some noxious gases coming up out of... People are worried about, I can understand, people worried about pollution. Nobody likes pollution or anything. There's some fucking noxious-ass gases that just come out of the damn ground.
Noxious ass
gases.
There's some noxious ass gases coming out of some other places too.
Ask Jenny. You got all kinds of stuff underneath there, man. You got plutonium, you got uranium in there, and you got everything.
What, in the ground or in your ass?
Oh, in the ground. Don't talk about my ass on TV.
It's not TV, it's YouTube.
Okay. That's funny.
But yeah, like I said, I feel like that's probably like a bigger problem. Living in Florida, getting sucked into a sinkhole, getting blown away a hurricane, getting eaten by an alligator. That's probably
you got to keep shit in proper perspective.
Well,
getting bit by a mosquito that's carrying
encephalitis.
And all these weird ass tropical diseases that we have, hurricanes, tornadoes, sinkholes. Alligators. Mm-hmm. Okay. Brown recluse spiders.
Yeah.
Weird shit like Ebola. This is like a perfect place. All we need is one of these dudes from the Congo.
It's a fucking swamp.
To come down in here and just spread an Ebola. Fuck.
Yeah.
Because this is a perfect place for Ebola.
Well, like I said, it's like a fucking swamp.
Yeah.
It's all you need. It's like it's just like how when species get introduced in the wild, like one escaped from a zoo or something like that. Florida is where they go because they're like, oh, it's nice and hot, yay!
Everything lives here,
and there's water everywhere.
We got boa constrictors now when we didn't have those. We have weird kind of tropical fish that eat up all the other fish.
Yeah.
We got what's got arapaima? Don't we have arapaima here?
Probably.
Or what is that Brazilian fish that got into the damn lakes? It's not arapaima, is it?
I can't. It might be,
it's
but
like
I can't.
It's like a giant piranha.
Yeah.
About the size of a dinner plate.
Yeah.
With teeth on it. That's here.
You never know what you're coming across.
Yeah.
Seriously,
boa constrictors.
I've lived here my whole life.
Anacondas.
And pretty much like once a week, like when I'm just out walking along the path, I see some like insect or something that I'm like, what the fuck is that thing? I've never seen one of those.
Got the great white anaconda. Jenny sees that all the time.
The great white anaconda. See, I'm not allowed to talk about your butt, but now you're talking about some. Okay. I see how you are.
Yeah.
See, he's allowed to do things, but I'm not.
I've
That's
been
how
drinking.
that's how shit works.
Yeah.
Are you done talking about Florida now?
Yeah.
Oh, I should say that, like, I told you that I saw an otter this morning.
Yeah. You told me this is about the size of Baby Cookie, right?
Yeah, it was about baby cookie size. It was a little one.
We saw an otter a couple months ago crossing the street, going to this pond, right across the street from the house. Mm-hmm. Well, not really across the street from the house, but across the street.
Kind of around the corner and across the street.
That otter had to be about 6 feet long.
That was a big one.
It was huge. It was long. It's low to the ground, but long. I would say it was about 5 feet long, wasn't it?
Yeah, easily.
With the tail.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge.
This one.
I didn't know they got that big.
Yeah, they do.
They small man. You don't see them. Child.
You don't see them very often, but every now and then. And yeah, I was walking this morning, like down along. We have like a county path. It's like really nice. There's like trees and shit over the top of it, and I was walking along, and like there's a pond on one side that's got like alligators and ducks and shit in it, and then on the other side is these woods where allegedly the people that live around, I think they're growing pot in there because every time, like every now and then I'll walk by and I'm like,
oh, weed path,
weed.
Yeah,
so I call them the marijuana woods.
Yeah,
so
they're growing something back there.
I do think they definitely are, because
smells like that sticky resin.
Well, yeah, because sometimes I walk through there and I'm like, oh, they must be like trying out their fucking their latest harvest.
I think it's legal here down in Florida, isn't it?
Florida, is it?
I think I've smelled weed in the damn clubs before.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's legal.
Okay.
It's like people are doing all kind of stuff in there that's not legal. But yeah, so I was walking and I saw like probably about 50 feet in front of me, this little critter comes running out of marijuana woods and goes running down to like the little alligator pond down there. And it was like a little bitty otter. It was like a baby one probably.
Yeah.
Or like a teenage one. It was about baby cookie size. I'm always get so excited when I see otters.
That one that we saw was that other one that we saw.
Yeah, that one. That one we saw the other day.
It was the size of a man.
Yeah, well, it wasn't that quite that big. It was probably like it was the size of like a small dog, probably.
I remember it being about 5 feet long and about that high off the ground. It was it probably weighed 110 pounds.
And he had like a really long tail. This one's tail was probably about half as long as that, so I think it was probably like. But so I got super excited when I saw that. It's just like every now and then when I see a bunny. Like, every now and then you'll see like a little wild bunny just like in the fucking woods, and I get super excited about that.
Got all kinds of animals here.
Yeah, I know. But, that's one of the ones that we don't see very often. That's one of the ones we don't see very often, bunnies and otters.
Haven't seen a bear in a while.
No, I haven't. Seen some deer, but
possums.
No bears in a long time.
Had that possum on top of the fence. You see, possums, it looks like they got a mouthful of sharp teeth. It looks like they'll hurt you. But they're timid little creatures, really. They're not fast or anything. Yeah, I wouldn't mind having a possum.
Remember the other night, like, well, this was like a few months ago probably, but remember, yeah, they are. Yeah. But you remember, we heard like this horrible racket, like out on the back porch, and like we thought somebody was out there, like trying to break into the shit, and we look out there and it was this big fucking possum, and he was like climbing around inside our barbecue grill.
He's trying to get the barbecue grill.
He was trying to get it open because we had
barbecued that day.
We had cooked on it earlier, and I guess he's like, "Whoa, that smells good." I'm gonna say,
so he knows what barbecue is.
He was trying to open the grill.
Yeah, he knows what barbecue. He was a big one.
He was making so much noise.
That was a big one.
I wish we had got that on film, but it was like so dark outside that we couldn't.
Like a rat bigger than a cat.
Yeah, it was like a big, huge one. Dog. Trying to get in the grill. They're not dumb. They know where the good food is.
Shut it down, Jenny. Shut it down.
All right, I'm shutting it down. All right, so. I hope you enjoyed this rather rambling discussion of various crimes that took place in my home state of Florida. And remember, if you like the show, like, share, subscribe on all your social media. Share it with your friends and family. If you'd like to support the show, you can go to our Patreon page or go to our blog where there is a little link to a PayPal account where you can give a one-time donation if you would like to do that. And we will see you next time. Bye.